This paint palette has proven to be the hardest thing to clean, probably because it wasn't meant for acrylics in the first place. But we're gonna clean it this time, no matter what. Note that this isn't just a result of a couple of recent painting sessions. This is years of dried paint. I gathered more paint palette cleaning hacks and we'll start with the least toxic one, / the one that it's easiest for me to get supplies for. Let's start with vinegar. Apparently it's a simple and 100% working solution. Step 1. Add vinegar in palette sockets and keep it there for 5 to 6 hours. I decided to try this for a couple of wells and tape off the rest of the palette to test other methods. I used white vinegar and did not dilute it with water. Not sure if that matters or not.
9 hours later.
Second step. After 6 hours, take an old brush and the dried acrylic paint can be easily removed. Okay, we'll see. I'm pouring out the vinegar and saving it to reuse it for something else you'll see in another video. Now let's try brushing it. I'll use an old toothbrush or two. They're handy for cleaning small spaces. The brushing honestly did nothing in my opinion, but the 9 hours in vinegar did get some blue paint out and reveal white paint under it, or turn the blue paint white. So not perfect, but it did something.
The next day.
Next up is window cleaner. Leave it in the rain for a week and see what... No, that's the wrong script. Soak in window cleaner for 10 minutes. So I sprayed some of it on the palette, especially in the 2 middle wells, but I'm not bothering to cover up the rest of the palette anymore. We let it sit for 10 minutes and then I'll rub it with a rag and a toothbrush and we'll see what happens.
15 minutes later.
Spot the difference. I can't see any difference at all. The next one is rubbing alcohol. Apparently it only takes a couple of minutes. I'll believe it when I see it, okay? So I found 2 different kinds of instructions. One says to put the alcohol on a rag and rub the palette, whereas the comment says to soak the palette in rubbing alcohol. I bought an isopropanol spray, so I'm spraying it on the palette in the balcony. It is toxic to breathe or get in your eyes, so I'm wearing gloves and goggles while spraying it. I mostly aimed at the yellow paint wells on one side and I'm letting it sit for 10 minutes.
10 minutes later.
Now I'm rubbing the isopropyl alcohol on the palette with a rag. The rag is getting dirty, so some of the paint is definitely dissolving, but it's happening very slowly and this smells horrendous, so I'll quit for now. There is a slight difference between the 2 yellow wells, but that's all. My last hope is turpentine. I'm using the kind that's meant for cleaning house paint brushes, like when painting walls and stuff. Mineral turpentine. I did actually order fancier and less toxic turpentine for oil painting, but that's for a different video. This one I stole from my mom's garage. I'm doing this on the balcony, so there's good ventilation and I'm wearing gloves and goggles and pouring some turpentine on a rag and rubbing the palette with it. You also need a respirator mask. The mask I was using was not enough. Turpentine works if you rub it hard enough. Maybe if you soaked it in turpentine it would be even better, but honestly I started feeling woozy while doing this, even though I had the balcony glass open right next to me or above me, so I stopped doing this very abruptly. But from the before and after, you can see I got some paint off from the top in that short time. After trying all the 4 methods once, I decided to give vinegar another go. I'm gonna submerge the whole palette in vinegar, put a weight on it and cover it with plastic wrap so it wouldn't smell as much, and leave it there for the rest of the day and we'll see what happens.
The next morning.
I poured out the vinegar and tried scrubbing it with a rag and a toothbrush. I noticed the dried paint had actually softened, so I took out a knife, which I don't use for food anymore, that's important to note. And I started scraping off the layers of different colored paint. I'm gathering the dried paint in this jar to do something with it later. The vinegar worked pretty well, but I thought I'd rub off the rest with turpentine. It did help, but came to another sudden end when I started feeling like I'm about to faint. And I did one more soak and scrub in the same vinegar I kept earlier. I'll say vinegar definitely worth a try, even for very old dried paint. Let it soak submerged in vinegar for a very long time till the dry paint softens and scrape it off. And if all else fails, use something stronger like turpentine to rub off the rest if you absolutely must. But read the safety measures online before using turpentine or isopropanol. Now, if only I could get my kneaded eraser as clean. Watch me try 2 hacks for cleaning a sticky and dirty kneaded eraser by clicking here. See you there.